Hello, psychology students. Today we're going to begin Unit 3. This is really the middle part of our psychology course. In the beginning, you had the history and the biological basis. Remember that psychology is a social science. We have the science aspect of it that you just completed, studying the sensory system, the nervous system. When I was in high school, psychology was taught by a biology teacher. So there's that scientific element, but as a social science, actually a behavior science, there's also the human aspect. So where science is very specific and social sciences, the behavior component, we have a lot of theories, but it's more about being conditioned and looking at why people act the way they do. Why do they behave the way they do? So as we begin Unit 3, the first part is on classical conditioning. Classical conditioning, I want you to think about how you go to school. How do you know what to do when you go to school? You've been conditioned. The first day of school is usually not extremely chaotic. Students walk into the classroom and what do? You find a desk and you sit in that desk, right? Rarely have I seen students the first day of school walk in and some are on the floor, some are on the windowsill, some are sitting at the teacher's desk. We have been conditioned. So that's what we're going to look at in this unit. What happens in class when the bell rings? Everybody gets up to go, right? When I was teaching face-to-face classes, I would tell my students, the bell doesn't dismiss you, I dismiss you. But it was very difficult for my students because they've been conditioned, just as you have, that when the bell rings, you leave the class. How does that happen? How do you learn that? So that is Unit 3. I want you to think about just conditioning itself. If you're an athlete, you're playing sports, you go through conditioning, you're training your body. Well, with psychology and behavior, we're training our minds, or somebody else is training our minds. So there's very important vocabulary in this unit. In classical conditioning, you have a stimulus. And when that stimulus happens, there's a response. Sometimes it's an unconditioned response, which would be natural. And sometimes there is a conditioned response. You have been trained, you have been taught. Then we'll move into operant conditioning. And with operant conditioning, we learn through reinforcements, our behavior. Sometimes those are positive reinforcements, and sometimes they're negative. Think about when you're paid for a grade. When you're paid for a grade, oh, if I make an A, my parents are going to give me this much money. Or you miss a curfew. We're going to have a negative effect, negative response with punishment, the reinforcement. You may be grounded because you miss the curfew. Look at things like the law of effect. And when you're thinking about, when you do something and there's a positive response or you're rewarded in some way, you're more likely to do that behavior. If you're an athlete, what happens when you work really hard in practice and the coach gets your attention that way? That's going to increase the likelihood of your playing time. When you're playing and you do things positive, the positive reinforcement is you continue to play. Or what happens when you make a bad play or something happens, you get yelled by the coach, you're pulled out of the game. Say learning and conditioning that I do this and this happens. So in this unit with learning and memory, why we do what we do, how we're conditioned and how we're trained. It's not just people. Think about dogs being trained as well. Think about the consequences, reinforcement. So as we go into Unit 3, which is learning and memory, and sometimes I have students say, learning and memory, shouldn't we have that the first unit? You're going to find things that are going to be able to help you in your everyday life, with your schoolwork, with memory. Not like the other things didn't, but with psychology, it all fits together. We have the scientific part, and then we have the behavior part. And there's still, as we learned in Unit 2, we still have to do the scientific method, and when we are giving a theory and their hypothesis, and then we're going to test that theory, we're we're going to see that with the conditioning here. So as we go through the unit, pay very close attention to the vocabulary, but think about each aspect as how that connects to your life or to something that you know, whether that's a stimulus and a response, unconditioned or conditioned. Remember that unconditioned is something that is natural, that just happens. I touch something hot, then I pull my finger back. That is an unconditioned response. Then think about, do I do things because of the rewards that I get? Do I not do things because of punishment? And looking at, be very specific with the vocabulary. I want you to take really good notes on the vocabulary and use those. Take your time with the assignments, but I want you to think about, how we do what we do and why. This is a great unit, and I'm very excited. And I just want to tell you, the whole class is doing so well. This really is, I've been doing this since maybe 2006. One of the best classes that I've had. I've really been enjoying your discussions and reading those assignments that you do, and you're putting a lot of thought into that. I think you're going to really enjoy Unit 3.